Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer, and I'm joined this week by only one of my two interlocutors from New York. He's Mark Prio. What's up, buddy?
What's up, buddy? Feels weird looking at my screen, seeing only one other person out there. But who wants to tell the people about Omar's situation? Are you going to tell them?
I'll tell him. So anybody who doesn't know,
it's going to be a two-man show here tonight, but Mike will fill you in.
Yeah, so if you don't know by now, Omar, originally from New York, a lifelong Manhattanite, I believe, he moved to Florida. My man moved to Florida thinking, I'm going to get some rays. I'm going to catch some rays. Well, you move to Florida, you're eventually going to catch a hurricane. And so he's okay. He's okay. Omar and his lovely wife are okay. But he keeps obviously having power issues, power outages, Wi-Fi issues, internet issues. So he was gonna join us. He actually was. He set up the call, and then his internet went out yet again. And then we tried to get it back in, and then it went out again. And we finally were like, just sit this week out. And so Omar, we're thinking about you, buddy. We hope you're doing good. We hope you're doing safe. We hope you're safe.
Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing his face on here to confirm his safety, but I still don't know.
What do you say? For all we know, he could have been swept away and somebody picked up his phone.
Yeah, and just been texting us this whole time.
Yeah,
but yeah, you guys may be noticing that these videos are hitting YouTube a day later than usual. It's because we normally record on Wednesday nights. We moved it because the hurricane was hitting Omar on Wednesday night, so we moved it to Thursday night. He was all good all day long, told us he's literally watching movies on his internet all day long, and 2 minutes before we click record, his internet is gone. So we tried to wait, and it doesn't seem like it's happening, so unfortunately, you're going to be stuck listening to a lot of me and Mike on this night. So we will get it done for you, though.
What was this hurricane called? What was the name?
Ian.
Ian?
Yeah.
I mean, Ian wasn't like Hurricane Sandy level, like back in, what was that, 2012? But, I mean, I've seen some videos, man. This was no joke.
Dude, I read I forget who wrote this morning, said when all is said and done, this might be as bad as Katrina. So I don't know if I would say that it wasn't Sandy level.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Didn't you say also that, like, it drained Tampa Bay?
Yeah. Wait, did I send you that picture? Yeah, I sent it in the group, right? Yeah, listeners.
That's right.
Literally the bay of Tampa Bay, like the actual water-filled bay, you could see the floor because somehow the hurricane winds sucked all the water out of the bay into the Gulf. So the whole bay was just like drained. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I didn't even know hurricanes could do that.
Man. I mean, dude, honestly, selfishly, I wish Omar was here because I have 100 hurricane questions for him.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to get the updates for sure. But anyway,
I will say this.
The main story here is we are glad Omar and his wife are okay.
Yeah. I will say this. One last thing about this. I used to work with what's that?
And his
cats. Of course. I will say this also. I'll add this in. I used to work with a girl who was in New York on an internship, but she was from Florida. She was from Miami. And one day I was asking her about like living in Florida, what it's like, and what it's like with like, hurricane season. Like every year you get like hurricane season. And she was like, you just kind of live with it. Like it's really, Florida people like don't think it's a big deal. Like you just kind of, you do what you have to do. And it's just like, you kind of just do it. So I was like, wow, it's interesting.
I mean, until a terrible one comes and changes your life, which happened to some people with this one. So, yeah.
Well, on that note, it's a two-man show tonight. Omar's going to join us hopefully next week, but let's get on with the show.
He did text us his picks, so we'll be able to share those with you guys as we go into the preview section of this later on. So he'll be here right away.
That's right. And he also texted us his Inside the MMA Sphere topics. So I'm going to share those on his behalf. And here we go. So we're going to start as we always do with our first segment on the marquee. We're going to talk about fights from this past weekend's Bellator event, Bellator 285. And then we're going to dive inside the MMA Sphere. We're going to talk about the goings-on in the MMA world outside of the cage. And then we're going to look ahead. We're not going to get any pre-O rankings update, I should say, because there was no UFC. And Mark's ranking system is based on the UFC roster. And then we're going to look ahead to this weekend's fights. We have one championship fights, one on Prime Video 2 with Angela Lee headlining once again. We have Bellator 286, Pitbull versus Borics, and a UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Xiong. And let's see how we do, ladies and gentlemen. So, before we get into anything else, as we often do, let us first thank our audience, Mark. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe to our channel so that you never miss a video. And yes, hit that bell icon so that you get notified whenever we drop a new video or a new clip. If you want audio only, hey, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, find us on social media. We are at @NU_MMA show in all the places. Right. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Yoel Romero in the co-main event, who this past weekend at UFC at Bellator 285 defeated Melvin Manhoef by TKO in the third round with vicious elbows. Mark, what was your impressions of this performance by Yoel Romero, getting it done over the legend in Melvin Manhoef?
I love that we're still having Yoel having marquee days like this one. I fucking love watching Yoel Romero fight. He just encapsulates so much of what makes fighting something that you can't take your eyes off. Like, he looks like an advanced species of human. He has muscles where they don't even belong. He moves in a way that doesn't make sense for a man of his age. He does things in fights that blow your mind and that you feel like should not look as easy as he makes them look. And he carries that feeling with him of like, this guy might end this if I blink. Like, he feels that dangerous all the time. And when you watch him, he feels like he's like impenetrable. So he just, you know, even when he loses, it feels like you're like, well, how could that have just happened? Like, he's Yoel Romero. Like, how did he get beat? Like, he's just such a fantastic character in MMA, and you cannot take your eyes off him when he's on your screen. So I love a Yoel fight. I love a Yoel win. I miss him in the UFC, but hopefully we're going to see him in some big fights coming up here soon, which we will get to. But in this particular fight, Yoel really was impenetrable. Melvin truly just did not have a way. Yoel is too good. He fought smart. He mixed in his wrestling, and then he puts Melvin out in brutal fashion. I mean, there are some angles of that finish that were just scary, like thudding. And then he barks like a dog into the camera. Growls, barks, I don't know what you want to call it, like just long enough.
Oh, he was barking.
That your soul starts to feel uncomfortable, and you're like, when is he going to stop? Because it's past that point now. But that's Yoel. And then he tells Johnny Eblen that he's coming for his belt. So you can't ask for more than what Yoel gave us on Friday night.
When he barks for like the 9th time, you're like, is he okay?
Yeah, literally. Yeah, you're like,
what's going on?
Is he barking at me? What, like
through the screen? It's true.
Yeah, he does just enough to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, man.
He's a scary dude.
Did Omar take Manhoef?
No.
We were unanimous in that. The fight went pretty much as I thought it would, although I thought this was all going to be sort of encapsulated all in the first round and ended in the third round. But yeah, Yoel, he just has too many weapons for Manhoef, who's really mainly a striker, whereas Yoel just could go anywhere in the fight and be dangerous everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I was happy to see that he leaned on the wrestling. Like, he was winning the stand-up
smart
as well, but there was no reason for him to not get the takedowns when he could. It was such an advantage there. And actually, I think Omar called it. I believe we all had TKO. I think you said first round, I said second, Omar said third. So I think Omar actually nailed it.
Yeah, man. And Manhoef, he walked away on this loss, didn't he?
KO, I should say. He walked away. Hung him up, which, you know, he was one of these guys where it has felt like it might be that time for a little while now. He's certainly not in his prime. He could still knock a lot of guys out, of course. He's Melvin Manhoef.
Sure.
It's not going to go away.
Yeah, my God.
But felt like an appropriate retirement. He was really emotional about it. Obviously, it's tough to retire right after you get knocked out horribly the way that he did. But it seemed like he was content with it, had his whole family there, his team there, had a nice little moment. And he gave a nice speech afterward, especially for, you didn't know if his brain was going to be in one piece, and he gave a solid little speech.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. I mean, it's partly because of the mileage on their bodies, because, if anybody doesn't know, I think we touched on it last week, Manhoef is 46 years old, but he's only a year older than Yoel Romero. But that being said, Romero, interestingly, he entered pro MMA rather late in his life, and he only has 21 bouts on his whole career. This past weekend was his 21st MMA bout. That is not a lot for a guy of his age. Melvin Manhoef, on the other hand, he has 51 matches in professional mixed martial arts. The guy's got a lot of miles on his body, and he looks like a 46-year-old pro MMA fighter to me, whereas Yoel, I mean, maybe it's partly because he's also has gone up in a weight class, and now he's fighting at 205. He just always looks, I mean, he's a freak, man. He's a fucking freak. The guy looks like he's 30.
Normal rules do not apply to anything that Yoel Romero does.
Okay, so obviously we don't have to talk about Melvin Manhoef and where he goes from here. He's going into the sunset and into retirement. But what do you think, man? What do you think about Romero's call out, and do you think that that's an appropriate next opponent for him, or do you have something else in mind?
I mean, is it truly appropriate for Yoel Romero to walk into a middleweight title shot in a division that he has never fought in this organization yet? Probably not. Like a guy like Anatoly Tokov, who's been like right there waiting for a title shot, is probably like, no, come on. Like, Gegard finally lost. I'm the next guy, and like we're gonna give it to Yoel. So, in that way, no. But like, it's Bellator. It's not the deepest middleweight division in history. Yes, okay, maybe we were gonna do a Gegard rematch. I'm not sure what the thought was there, if they were gonna immediately run it back between Eblen and Gegard. But if you're not, like, it's pretty easy for Bellator to be like, you know what, we'll give Anatoly Tokov one more fight, and we'll book Yoel fucking Romero, So you can't argue it. If you were the promoter, you'd probably do the same exact thing. So, and as a fan, I love the idea. Like, again, I kind of would love Gegard to get a rematch as well. But if we're not going in that direction, let's do Yoel Romero. Because if Johnny Eblen is really as good as he appeared to be in beating Gegard, then him and Yoel is going to be one hell of a fucking fight. And Johnny Eblen's wrestling is going to meet resistance like it never has before in the form of Yoel. So we're gonna see him have to fight in a way that he's not used to fighting. He loves to mix it up in there. There might not be a mix-it-up option against Yoel Romero. So there's a lot of interesting angles for that fight. Eblen's already saying he wants to see Yoel take a fight first, so he knows he can make the weight because he doesn't believe he can make it, so on and so on. So who knows how it's going to play out, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree. I think if you're Bellator, it's in Bellator's best interest for them to sort of stay in the headlines. And a Yoel Romero in a championship bout does that for them. I mean, he's just such a star, and he's 45 years old.
Yeah. I mean, you also either get Yoel Romero as your champion, which is marketable, or you have Johnny Eblen beat Gegard Mousasi and Yoel Romero back-to-back, and you're like, hello, world, we got this guy Johnny Eblen who's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So It's really a win-win.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. Oof. You got to wonder, do we know how long this guy's going to keep fighting? Is he going to just fight at the top level of organizations into his 50s?
I got to think till at least 60.
Then he'll hang it up. When he's 60, he's going to look like he's 40.
I really don't know, man. I mean, we haven't seen any physical fall off. He's not slower. He's not weaker. He's not anythinger. So until I see something, I'm not even thinking about it.
Is Yoel Romero, is he married? Does he have kids?
I don't know. That's a good question.
If he's just like this single bachelor in his 40s who's still just all he does his whole life. He has no wife. He has no family. He has no kids. He has no dogs. He just trains.
He is married, it says.
Oh.
Wait, where is this? It says he prefers to keep his personal life private, excuse me. He is currently married, but his wife's name is not known.
Interesting.
He shares 3 kids with his wife. He has 2 sons and 1 daughter. Not much is known about them, since their names have not been publicized either. They live in Miami, Florida.
Oh, they live in Miami. Interesting. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you knew he lived in Miami. He's Jorge's boy. They're together a lot.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about Yoel on the marquee before we move on?
Nah.
Okay. Well, in the main event of Bellator 285, Benson Henderson defeats Peter Queally by unanimous decision. What did you make of Bendo's performance over Queally?
First off, did I tell you guys to watch that walkout? That walkout was fucking awesome. That Dublin crowd, when that zombie song hits and Peter Queally walks, they give one hell of a reaction. That's the second time for him. Unfortunately, he's 0-2. But it's an awesome walkout. As for the fight, how about that? Huh? A Benson Henderson fight where he was the aggressor from jump and where he kept up the pace and kept up the volume. Amazing how different he can look when he does that. We all know Benson possesses the skills. He always has. Now, he's not necessarily going to knock you out cold in there, but he's able to do just about every other damn thing there is to do besides that. And he finally comes in here against Peter Queally. Maybe it's because I was right that Queally isn't on this level. Maybe it's just that Benson got so pumped up from the Dublin crowd that he went in there with a lot of adrenaline. Maybe he just finally got himself to do it. Because, he's been talking about it in his press conferences and stuff about upping the aggression. And he just hasn't followed through. So who knows what the reason was that it finally happened. But he came in there, and he put it on Peter Queally. He kept up the output. He went forward. His cardio, we know, is there for days, and he leaned on that, and he leaned on the well-roundedness to a point where Peter Queally just couldn't figure out a way to change the fight, where he'd be in any less trouble, because he was in trouble wherever it was going. And I thought Benson's use of elbows was a little bit of a new wrinkle that we don't usually see from him, and they were beautiful. Some of them were nasty, including, obviously, the one that dropped Queally in the 4th round. But overall, I was really impressed with Benson, and I really, really hope we get to see a few more performances like that across what is apparently going to be these last 3 fights, because Benson fights like that, he's an interesting fighter.
Yeah, favorite moment of the fight, obviously, was the from the floor, wheel kick that Benson
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Unreal athleticism, this guy. Unreal.
Incredible. And it landed so clean.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if you're Queally, you're like, that didn't see that fucking coming.
Yeah.
But
he just
I think
we 25 minutes, and then he had to cap it off with that shit.
Oh my God! And we joked in our text thread, you, me, and Omar, about somebody said, was it Coker, who was like, Benson Henderson he's the best 155 in the world.
It was his
manager,
his coach. What is his coach's freaking name? Why am I blanking? Well, whoever it was Benson Henderson's coach.
We just we joked at the obvious ridiculousness of that statement. But you bring
Crouch,
up an interesting
John Crouch.
Okay, John Crouch. We laughed at the obvious absurdity of that sentence. But you kind of brushed up against an interesting point that when we get aggressive Benson Henderson, the skill set that he possesses, the athleticism that he possesses, the frame that he possesses at 155 pounds, it makes you wonder, man, of not how good he could have been, because he is so good, but what other heights he could have achieved if he kind of didn't fight so, I don't know, safe? Is that the right word?
Yes, and I totally agree. The guy checks nearly every box there is to check. As I said, he is not a knockout artist, so he doesn't have that box. But he's an educated striker. He'll hurt you. He fights super intelligent, both offensively and defensively. Good game planner, all that. Really responsible defensive fighter. He can wrestle his ass off. He's got nasty grappling. He'll tap you if you make a mistake. He's got cardio for days. He's got a chin. It's hard to hurt him. I mean, he checks. I'm sure there's other boxes I'm forgetting, but he checks nearly every box there is to check. It's just that a lot of times he kind of goes in there and is content to almost chess match it. And it's like, Benson, why don't you get in a little bit of a fight here, and things might go more your way. And that's what he finally did in this fight.
You know who brought that out of him a little bit? Nate Diaz, when he fought Nate.
Yeah,
because Nate pulls everybody into like the alligator waters. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he brought that out of Benson Henderson. And anyway, we're not here to talk about that fight. We're here to talk about Benson Henderson and Queally. Okay, let's talk about where Benson Henderson goes off of this fight. He's up there in the Bellator lightweight rankings. Where do you see him going from here?
So he's calling for a title shot against the winner of Patricio Pitbull and Usman Nurmagomedov, which I want to say is in November. So pretty soon. He seems to think that there's no one else who's deserving. Like, he kind of is acting like it's his shot. But if we're being honest, the guy lost 3 in a row before this 2-fight win streak. So I don't think we're quite there. I think there's at least a couple other guys. Tofik Musayev just came in and wrecked Sidney Outlaw, and he's a guy who already has a win over Patricio. Then you add in Alexander Shabliy, who is 3-0 in Bellator, and he just finished Brent Primus, who beat Benson 2 fights ago. So I feel like he's kind of ahead of Benson as well. Neither of them is booked at the moment, Musayev and Shabliy, so it's possible that Bellator is going to book them against each other, but I think what's more likely is they probably pick one of them to fight the winner of Patricio and Usman. And I'm thinking it's going to be Musayev. So if that happens, I think Benson and Shabliy probably makes sense. But either way, I don't think it is going to be Benson's title shot. It would surprise me if he got it right away without one more win.
Do you see any Bellator lightweight matching up with Peter Queally next?
I hadn't thought about Queally.
Yeah, okay.
Let me look quick about what I feel like may make sense. See, I don't rank Queally. You know how I'll say for Queally? Spike Carlyle is fighting AJ McKee this weekend. The presumption is Spike loses that fight. I think that matchup actually makes some sense. Oh, shit.
What?
Oh, shit. I didn't even see this. Today, apparently Scott Coker announced that the next Grand Prix is lightweight and that it's happening in 2023. So forget everything I just said because we're going into a Grand Prix.
Sick.
Wow. Hold on, let me look at this real quick. He mentions Musayev, mentions Patricio, mentions Usman. But see, so that fight's happening first then, obviously. Yeah, okay, so this is 2023, he said. So yeah, he mentions Brett Primus. He mentions McKee. That's it. So I got to think, what would 8 be? Let's see. Patricio, Usman, Musayev, Shabliy, that's 4. Primus, Benson Henderson is 6. Probably Sidney Outlaw is 7. Maybe the 8th spot is up for grabs. I guess it could be Queally. Could be Islam Mamedov. Trying to think who else is out there. It's kind of the guys, unless I'm forgetting someone. But that's, hey, I'm down.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, let's go on.
Interesting. I missed that today.
In the Bellator featherweight division, Pedro Carvalho defeated Mads Burnell by unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, and 29-28. Mark, what was your reaction of Pedro Carvalho getting it done?
So this is not one that I saw coming. I thought Mads Burnell looked like shit, quite honestly, which I don't love saying because I'm a fan of Mads Burnell. I was disappointed in how he fought. Gone was the aggressive, infighting Mads Burnell, and all that I saw was a guy who was dead set on grappling. It's almost like, so last fight, if you remember, against Adam Borics, he kind of banged with Adam Borics all fight. They friggin' went to war, and after that fight, I was like, man, I really thought Mads Burnell was going to look to grapple more, but maybe it's that Borics was just so athletic that Mads felt like he couldn't get inside. I wasn't sure, and I almost feel like in his head, he overcorrected so hard for this fight that he was like, I need to grapple. I blew it last fight. I should have grappled. That it's the only thing he thought about, and he like kind of forgot how he fights on the feet almost during this run. Like the way that he has made this run is that he kind of makes it ugly, and he gets inside and he digs you to the body and throws uppercuts, and he hangs on you and he tires you out. And in this fight, he kind of just stayed on the outside and worked his strikes and tried to get back in for a takedown. And he kind of left out that whole part of his game. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it was something about Carvalho that made him do that, but I didn't see that coming. I was disappointed that he fought that way. It was a big fight because now that's 2 losses in a row for Mads. So he obviously falls down the ladder at featherweight there. But can't take anything away from Carvalho. He looked really good on the feet. He looked sharp. He looked quick. He did well in the grappling exchanges. Yes, there was extended time where he was controlled down there, but he didn't let Mads really hurt him or get close to a sub or anything of that nature. So you can't knock him. He did well. He fought a good fight. He exposed Mads a little bit on the feet, whether it was Mads' game plan or skill or whatever was the reason. Pedro looked really sharp on the feet and obviously won that fight. So he earned that decision.
So Carvalho gets back in the win column. He's been ping-ponging back and forth between wins and losses. What do you see next for him at 145 pounds under the Bellator banner?
So it's a little murky at the top of 145 now. Since you got two big fights happening this weekend, I feel like you kind of got to let them play out. But if Adam Borics loses this title fight, I could see him and Pedro Carvalho making sense. If Borics ever won this title fight, then maybe you go to like Jeremy Kennedy, depending if he wins or loses against Pico. I wouldn't put him against Pico. I feel like there's bigger things for Pico, but one of those type of things is where I'd go with Pedro.
Like it. Do you want to match up Burnell or no?
I could see. I mean, there's a lot of options. I could see a guy fighting this weekend is Keone Diggs, who I am expecting to get a knockout win. He is a guy that had kind of been highly regarded. Then he dropped 2 in a row in his last 2 fights, but he's kind of hanging around that edge of featherweight. I could see someone like that maybe get a little reset for Mads.
Nice, man. All right, bro. Do you want to give our listeners and viewers any other notes you have from Bellator 285 from this past weekend before we move on?
Yeah, I'll give you a few real quick. The other fight on the main card that we didn't fully discuss was Leah McCourt. She wins a UD, or actually was it a split decision? I believe it was a split, actually, over Diana Silva. McCourt still looks a bit raw. She eked out a W here. You can debate if there was some hometown cooking involved. I don't know how most people scored it. I was torn live myself. But she gets a win. Big one for her to bounce back. Kieran Clark, who is kind of one of these homegrown Bellator talents, gets another W here. He is continuing to be a guy who is losing fights until the moment he submits you. Like, he was taking a bit of a beating in this one. But the guy doesn't go away, and eventually there's a grappling situation, and you are in trouble. And that's what happened here. And he tapped out Rafael Utsin, which I was loving. Brazilian with the last name of Hudson. They were calling him Utsin all night long. That was a new one. And then the other one of note, Carl Albrechtsen. This is a guy who beat Vadim Nemkov years back. Had come to Bellator, had looked great so far. He's a guy who I thought was probably climbing his way to a big fight. Never thought he would have an issue with Carl Moore. Carl Moore hasn't fought in, I think it's almost 3 years before this fight. And Carl Moore comes in there and first off takes a beating in round 1 from Carl Albrechtsen. I thought they were almost going to stop the fight. And I'm like, yeah, this is how this fight's supposed to go. And next thing you know, Carl Moore comes out there and freaking almost rips his head off and wins via neck crank in round 2. So that was a huge upset for Carl Moore. Obviously a stumble for Carl Albrechtsen. And we will see where Bellator puts Carl Moore from here, but a pretty wild result on that one. And that's it.
Man, I'd rather get choked out cold from an actual rear naked choke than get face cranked. I feel like getting face cranked is like the most embarrassing thing.
It's tough, man. It's
tough.
Man.
It's like I've allowed myself.
Every time I see it, I always think like I never want to feel what that feels like.
Oh God, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into this next segment, Inside the MMA Sphere by Omar Archuleta, read by Michael Hansen. Okay, so once again, Omar could not be here because of Hurricane Ian, that bastard. But he has sent me his Inside the MMA Sphere topic. So here we go. Leading off is Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal won his third professional MMA bout, his second bout under the Dana White's Contender Series banner, which, by the way, if you don't know, is a separate entity from the UFC. It is its own promotion. So, yeah, that's something I was always kind of curious about, and I looked it up. And so, yeah, Contender Series is its own promotion.
Right. I definitely know that, yeah.
In dominant fashion, Bo Nickal gets this guy out of there. A guy who, by the way, was 7-1 going into that fight against Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal made him look like an amateur, to be quite honest. I felt bad for that guy. It's like, man, you're 7-1 as a pro. As a pro, you go 7-1. I don't care where you've been fighting. If you have entered into professional mixed martial arts and you've gone 7-1, you are good. You're doing something right. And then just get squashed like that, man. Whew. So, Bo Nickal does what he has to do, and he is now in the UFC.
Yeah, if you don't know Bo Nickal, this is a kid who is one of the best collegiate wrestlers we've ever seen. As a freshman, he was the runner-up for the NCAA Division I championship and was the champion as a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. Took a year in between to start training MMA. Debuted. That was his last. The last NCAA championship was 2019. So 2020, trained MMA. 2021, takes 2 amateur fights, wins them both in the first round. 2022, 3 pro fights in, has won them all in the first round. So the dude's credentials are through the roof, and I feel like he's one of those guys. So I'm a guy generally who's always like, let me see it against guys that matter. I don't believe it until I see it against someone, so on and so on. Bo Nickal, they're top 15 fighters I think I'd pick him against today. That's how real he looks to me.
Yeah, man. And how dominant he looks.
Yeah. And they have already matched him up. I don't know if you saw it today, got announced with Jamie Pickett. Did you just say that?
That's right. Nope.
Oh, so yeah, he's getting Jamie Pickett. So Jamie Pickett has been chosen as the sacrificial lamb here. He's probably fighting for his job, if I'm remembering his last couple of fights. So we will see what those odds look like, but they are going to be wide.
Jamie Pickett is 13-8 as a pro, and he has dropped 2 straight so far.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, buckle up. Bo Nickal's coming.
Yeah, man. He reminds me. He's like the American Khamzat Chimaev, bro. I mean, he
Literally.
is.
That's a good comparison.
Super dominant wrestler. Same weight class, and I think also. He's been fighting at 185. He looks to me like. I'm like, he could be a welterweight, and he would.
You think so? I was wondering the same thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. All right, let's go on. Mark Zuckerberg rented out the entire UFC Apex this weekend to watch Dern versus Jan. But I will also add, I saw that Dana White said that that's not true.
Yeah, Dana said that was bullshit, so who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure. Mark Zuckerberg has been getting a lot of buzz lately in MMA circles because he apparently trains Muay Thai or something, or Jiu-Jitsu, or both. Yeah. Good for him. He's a fucking billionaire. I don't give a shit what he does.
Fuck him.
Yeah. Darren Till back to work in Thailand, training with the Tiger Muay Thai team out there, prepping for his return in December against Duplessis.
Like it.
Yeah, I love it.
Hopefully not training too hard because we need to stay healthy and actually make it to a fight for once.
Man, what happened to Darren Till, man? There was like 5 minutes where he was like the hype train in the UFC at welterweight.
Yeah, dude, he fought for a title.
Yeah, he got beat by Woodley bad, but
it feels like that was a lifetime ago.
His back-to-back fights against Cowboy and Wonderboy was like, holy shit, Darren Till.
Yeah.
And then he's lost like 6 in a row. And he's still in the UFC.
Not quite.
Dude, I think he's lost a lot.
He certainly hasn't lost 6 in a row, Mike.
He's lost 4 of his last 5.
Okay.
Okay, let's go on.
6 in a row, you probably wouldn't have been here.
Yeah, you're right. Unless you're smiling Sam Alvey.
Yeah.
Okay. Aspen Ladd released from the UFC following her last missed weight. Making weight is just part of the job.
The least shocking news of the day.
It's true.
We called that one as soon as she missed the weight. We said,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's it."
I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure Bellator has already called her or something like that.
Yeah, I would
PFL.
too. Might as well.
Or one, maybe. We'll see.
Somebody who could fight Cyborg.
Yeah. Bobby Green suspended by USADA because he tested positive for testosterone.
This sucks. Sucks a lot. It was unintentional, if you believe Bobby. He sent out the whole story, everything he sent to USADA about the supplements he was taking, that he didn't know what it could be. They spotlighted one of them. They said, dude, it's right here in this supplement. The ingredient on here is one that's on our banned list. Like, how do you not check the ingredients? And he was literally like, I don't know. Someone told me it was a good supplement. I bought it. I never even thought twice about there possibly being something illegal in it. And here I am. Okay. A lot of people, I would be like, Bobby Green, I actually believe that story. I feel like Bobby Green is the last guy who would cheat. So
he's a real guy, man. And he's the kind of guy where you're like, I know that he wouldn't feed us a bullshit story.
And I feel like that sounds like an exact Bobby Green story. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's what Bobby Green would do.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
All right. It does for sure. All right, let's get into these fight announcements. We got quite a few. I might not read all of them. We'll see. Neil Magny versus Daniel Rodriguez added to UFC Fight Night mid-October. Let's see. Derek Lewis and Sergey Spivak headlining a fight night on November 19th. We got Joaquin Buckley going against Chris Curtis, coming off of Joaquin Buckley's recent loss. Yep. Okay. Tough fight. Yeah. I like it, though.
Yeah, I don't know how Buckley earned himself Chris Curtis off of the loss, but sure.
That's going to be great. No, that's going to be a great fight, actually.
Yeah, it's a good fight. For sure.
Added to UFC 282 in December 10th. We mentioned Bo Nickal going against Jamie Pickett on that same card, UFC 282. We got Arman Sarukian back in action against Ismagulov.
I just saw that
going down
right before the show.
Yeah,
That's
man.
Fucking great.
Added to a fight night on December 17th. Kelvin Gastelum is making a return against Nasruddin Imavov. Tough fight coming back for Kelvin. The attributes, man. The attributes. If this guy can only just, I don't know, grow 5 inches. That's in, yeah, right. It is a good fight. Good test for Imavov, actually. That's going to be January 14th. Then we got, let's see, Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo 4, set for UFC 283 in January. What are your thoughts?
Let's go. I actually didn't see the location. Does it say? Wait, is that the one that's in Brazil, 283?
I don't know.
Am I thinking of the wrong one? UFC 283. Da, 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 da.
Looks like yes.
Yeah, it's the one in Rio. So Brandon is going into Rio. Wow.
Love it.
Dope.
Love it.
Dope.
And one more. Brad Tavares going up against Hobocop Gregory Rodriguez at the same card, UFC 283 in Rio. Like it.
Yep. Nice one as well.
That does it for the fight announcements and our Inside the MMA Sphere by Omar Artola.
Thank you, Omar.
Thanks, Omar, wherever you are, if you're watching this or listening to this. How did I do? Okay, here we go.
Less creepy than Omar.
I didn't whisper into the microphone like a late night smooth jazz radio host.
Yeah.
All right, man. We are on the back nine of this podcast now. Let's look ahead to this coming weekend. We have fights going down in 3 major promotions around the world. We have one on Prime Video 2. We have Bellator 286. And we have UFC Fight Night Dern versus Jan. Let us first talk about one on Prime Video 2, which is going to be... Where is that happening? Let me pull this up real quick. One on Prime Video 2. Here we go. I got it. It's going down in Singapore at the Singapore Indoor Stadium September 30th, so tomorrow night. Headlined by Xiong Jingnan against Angela Lee for the One Women's Strawweight Championship. What are your thoughts on this matchup, Mark?
So before I get to that, I just wanted to touch on the card a little bit.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
And I guess those of you listening to this will be hearing it on Friday. So it is Friday night. The day you're listening is the night this is happening. So Friday night, I want to say 8 o'clock is when the main card starts. So, yeah, there's a few fights of note on this thing. If Omar was here, I'm sure he would talk to you about some of the kickboxing or whatever else is on this card. I'm an MMA guy, so I'm going to talk to you about MMA. You have Timofey Nastyukin facing Khalil Amir. Nastyukin is the guy who, if you may remember, beat Eddie Alvarez back in his debut. He has recently lost to Christian Lee, but he will keep himself kind of right on the edge of that title mix with a win here. He is a guy who is ranked highly in that division, so he's only minus 163 favorite, so pretty close fight, but he will try to keep himself on the periphery of that title shot picture. Then you have Martin Nguyen fighting Ilya Fremanov. Martin Nguyen is a guy who is in the mix for the featherweight title. Tang Kai, the new featherweight champion, his title. If he can get a win here, there's maybe a guy or two ahead of him, but he is going to be right there. If he can get a win here, he's about a 2-1 favorite. And then you have Stamp Fairtex, who is trying to bounce back from her own loss to Angela Lee, who we'll talk about in a minute, failing to take Angela Lee's title. She is fighting Jihin Radzuan, I believe is how you say her name. I'm not familiar with her, but that's who Stamp is fighting here. Stamp will try to will try to get a big finish and maybe get another quick chance at a title. So 3 pretty solid fights leading up to this really fantastic main event. All right, so am I going right into the main event?
Yeah, well, we have, I hope I'm not butchering her name too badly, Jingnan Xiong. Yeah, Jingnan.
Yeah.
A.K.A. the Panda, the 34-year-old fighting out of Beijing. She's 17-2 as a pro with 11 knockouts on her record. She's riding a 3-fight win streak going into Friday night against Angela Lee, the 26-year-old from Hawaii. Unstoppable is her nickname if you don't know. She's 11-2 as a pro. 1 knockout, 8 submissions on her record. She herself has won her last 2 fights back-to-back. Okay. That being said, Mark, what is your take and your pick?
All right, so we have a nearly dead pick'em here. They're both minus money. Angela Lee is minus 125. Jingnan is minus 105. So pretty tight. This one is for the one strawweight title. So 125 over there with the hydration test, but think about it as 115 for what we're used to. And Jingnan is looking for her 7th straight defense of that title. And this is a trilogy fight. The first time these two fought, Angela Lee moved up to challenge Jingnan, and Jingnan stopped her with body shots in the 5th round. Then, coming off of that, Jingnan said, you know what, I'm going to go down. I'm going to try to take her atomweight belt. But Angela managed to defend and choked out Jingnan in the 5th round. And now they're doing it again for Jingnan's belt. So it's been 2 competitive fights, both finishes, but both made it to the final round. So these girls have spent about 10 rounds in there with each other already, 9-10 rounds, whatever you want to call it. Shows you how competitive the matchup is, that both fights went that late. Angela Lee, despite being the fighter from the lighter weight class, has a 3-inch reach advantage. She has a 67-inch reach versus Jingnan's 64-inch reach. But Lee is the one who is more so going to be looking to grapple here in this matchup, whereas Jingnan is the one looking to exploit things on the feet for sure. That is her game. She is really explosively quick with her strikes, with closing range. She's crazy tough. She battled through some really tough submission attempts from Angela Lee in the first fight, and managed to really put it on Lee and hurt her late in that fight. But then in the second fight, Lee kind of changed it up. She brought her kicks more into play, and they let her keep that space a bit more so she wasn't necessarily getting stalked by Jingnan. It kind of let her dictate the distance a bit more, let her kind of decide when she wanted to clinch up or look for that takedown, and it swung the fight a bit in her favor, and obviously eventually let her get a tap. But in both fights, the one Jingnan won and the one that she lost, she still managed to hurt Angela Lee to the body. That has really been a key in this matchup, is her ability to hurt Angela Lee to the body. And Angela Lee has a pretty upright stance, and Jingnan just digs body shots. And if you remember, Stamp hurt Angela Lee to the body in her last fight too, bad. And Lee had to recover. So she is vulnerable to those shots, and they're a key here. I honestly came into this thinking I was going to pick Angela Lee because she looked so good in her last fight against Stamp. I love her game. But once I sat down and thought about it, I'm kind of finding myself swinging towards Jingnan. I'm very torn. And obviously the odds are nearly a pick'em, so I guess I'm not the only person who's very torn. I honestly feel like that I would stick with the current results based on the weight class. Like, if this was at atomweight, I kind of feel like that cut maybe takes enough out of Jingnan that Lee's able to have a little more success in the grappling and overpowering her, and that's why Lee wins at atomweight. At strawweight, when Jingnan doesn't have to make that cut, I think she's the stronger fighter. I think it's a little tougher for Lee, and that's why she wins at strawweight. I think the matchup is that close that the weight even may be the factor here. So with this being up at strawweight, I think I'm going to say Jingnan can resist enough. She has been improving her grappling as well since the last time she fought Angela Lee. I'm going to say no one gets finished this time, but I will go Xiong Jingnan by decision to defend her title.
Wow. Okay. It makes sense to me that the odds are so close. That being said, that gives me full permission to go with my girl, Angela Lee. America, baby. I know I'm an Angela Lee fan, man. I'm a big fan of her skill set. And I think she's just a gamer, man. She's just a winner. She's going to go in there. I think she's going to exact her will on Xiong. Eventually, she's going to get her to the ground. She's going to use her wrestling. And she's going to find a submission victory yet again. I'm going to go round 3. Boom.
I hope.
Yeah, me too.
For Lee.
It always feels weird when I'm rooting for the person who I'm picking. For some reason, I always feel safer when I'm picking the person against that I'm rooting for. Anyway.
Yeah, I get that.
Although I hate that too in a different way. God damn it.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, let's hop over to the Bellator side of the kiddie pool. Bellator 286 this weekend. Before we highlight, I believe we're going to talk about 4 of these fights. Any other fights that you want to highlight, buddy, for our listeners?
Sorry, I'm staring at these pretzels.
That's okay.
Eat one.
I'm jealous. I wish I had some pretzels right now. By the way, while you're chewing, this is going down October 1st at the Long Beach Arena in Long Beach, California.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's it. So, yeah, I'll highlight 2 fights quick, other than the 4 that we're going to really break down here. One is J.J. Wilson against Vladimir Tokov. This is a great fight. Dead pick'em fight. They're both minus 110. J.J. Wilson is a guy we've talked about on here before. We were all very high on him at featherweight as he was working his way up. Started to struggle with the weight cut. Finally moved up to lightweight in his last fight. Took his first L of his career. And he could certainly take another one here. Vladimir Tokov is no joke. But I think J.J. Wilson may be the more technical guy here and be able to just stay one slight step ahead. So I'm leaning his way, but I'm really interested to see this fight. I'm hoping he can come out on top and still be a factor up at lightweight because I really did love his game at featherweight. And the other one to note is Islam Mamedov, who I thought had left Bellator because we saw him fight over in, help me out, I'm blanking. What is Habib's? Eagle FC, thank you.
Eagle, sorry.
Couldn't think for a second. So we saw him fight over there, but I guess it was just a one-off because here he is back in Bellator. But he is fighting Nick Brown. He is a minus 250 favorite, Islam Mamedov. He is a guy who's been right at the top of the mix at lightweight. He may end up in this lightweight Grand Prix now that we were just talking about. Very possible if he gets a win here tonight. And I expect him to. I think you have to either be extremely well-rounded or very special in one area to beat Mamedov. Otherwise, he is just going to control you all fight, and I think that's probably what happens to Nick Brown here. So those are ones to watch. There's even others. Keone Diggs is on the card. I'm hoping he can get a knockout. There's some other solid fights on the Bellator undercard as well. So it's a pretty good card.
Cool, man. Let us first talk about Juan Archuleta taking on Enrique Barzola in the bantamweight division under the Bellator banner. So you have Juan Archuleta, the Spaniard, fighting out of Sultana, California, 35 years old, 25-4 as a pro, with 11 knockouts on his record. Only 4 losses. He's only been knocked out once. He's only been subbed once. The other 2 losses are decisions. He is coming off of back-to-back losses. By the way, back-to-back losses for the first time in his career. Those losses coming at the hands of Sergio Pettis and Rafael Stotts. His other recent loss was in September 2019 against Patricio Pitbull. So he's losing against some pretty big names, Mark.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have across the Bellator cage, Enrique Barzola, El Fuerte, fighting out of Lima, Peru, the 33-year-old. He's 18-6 with 2 draws on his record. Pretty well-rounded guy. 9 decisions, 4 submission victories, 5 knockouts. He also is coming off of a loss against Magomed Magomedov. So both of these gentlemen, Enrique Barzola and Juan Archuleta, are both looking to get back in the win column. Mark, it is your time. Give us your thoughts and ultimately your pick.
Yeah, so these are 2 guys who lost in the quarterfinal round of the Bantamweight Grand Prix, and Bellator picked them up, dusted them off, and said, all right, get back in there against each other, which I love to see. No need to wait for the rest of this Grand Prix to play out. Let's keep these guys going. This one is another one that's almost a dead pick'em. Barzola, surprisingly to me, is a slight favorite. He's minus 120. Archuleta is also minus. He's minus 110. So basically pick'em fight. I really love this fight. As we said, they're both coming off losses, 2 for Archuleta. They have both looked so good at times, though. They're the same size. I think Archuleta is going to be the faster fighter, and he's definitely more dangerous striking-wise in terms of finishing ability. But I have said it before in here, and I will say it again. Enrique Barzola will hang with you anywhere the fight goes. That guy will not be outworked, and he is good everywhere. He's so well-rounded. He will not go away. He will put a pace on you. He's tricky. He's crafty. I loved his last fight with Magomed Magomedov. Even in defeat, I thought he impressed. I'm torn on this one. As you said, you got to be elite to beat Juan Archuleta. The losses are Rafael Stotts, who is what is he? I guess he's the interim champion. Sergio Pettis, who is the champion, and Pitbull, who is the 145-pound champion. Those are the losses. So you got to be a stud to beat Juan Archuleta. I like Barzola a lot. I don't know if I think he can finish Archuleta, and I kind of think he has to. Because I don't know if he can do enough to win 2 of these rounds. Like, I can absolutely see him hanging, keeping the fight close, keeping the fight interesting. You're on the edge of your seat, but I think Archuleta being the better athlete, likely being stronger, and probably landing the more powerful shots in exchanges is just going to be edging rounds in the judges' eyes, and it might be hard for Barzola to overcome if he can't finish the fight. So I am going to go with Juan Archuleta, 29-28 UD.
Yeah, tough fight to pick, man. Tough fight to pick. I think the power differential is going to be in favor of Archuleta, who has finished nearly half of his fights, half of his wins by knockout. Yeah, I like your take that I think the more powerful shots are definitely going to come from Archuleta. I'm going to go with you there. I'm going to say Archuleta. I'm going to say Archuleta by unanimous decision. And he almost gets him out of there a couple times. He has him hurt, but Barzola is such a gangster that he's tough to put away. I mean, hey, he's never been knocked out. Ever.
Has he never?
Yeah. So there you have it. Okay. It's fun and getting more fun because in the featherweight division, Bellator 286, we have Aaron Pico taking on Jeremy Kennedy. Aaron Pico, stud, a highly touted 45er under the Bellator banner, by the way, has been under the Bellator banner exclusively his entire professional career. Aaron Pico, the 26-year-old Californian. He is 10-3 as a professional. 7 knockouts, 2 submissions on his record. He's riding a 6-fight win streak coming into Bellator 286 against his opponent, Jeremy Kennedy, nicknamed JBC, the 30-year-old from British Columbia, Canada. 17 wins, 3 defeats, 1 no contest. He has 6 knockouts and 2 submissions on his record, 9 decision victories. I'd say he's pretty well-rounded. He's coming off of a win against Emmanuel Sanchez back December 3rd of 2021 at Bellator 272. I think this is a tough fight for Kennedy. Mark, what are your thoughts?
So the odds makers agree with you because Aaron Pico is minus 575, which frankly might be too wide. That's a lot. Jeremy Kennedy is plus 425 as the dog. But with that being said, me saying the odds may be too wide, it is Aaron Pico time, and this is the one, and this is where we break through. We've been waiting for the true breakthrough to the elite here. Obviously, as you said, his whole pro career has taken place in Bellator. They gave him some big fights kind of early on, maybe a little too soon, lost him, setback. We're here now. The guy looks unbelievable. If he beats Jeremy Kennedy, it might already be a title shot. If it's not, it's only 1 fight away from a title shot. So this is the one he's got to deliver here. He has looked incredible lately. He's rattled off 6 wins in a row, 2 KOs, 2 subs, a TKO, a decision. He's doing it all. He is now showing the incredible well-roundedness that people expected out of him earlier on. He struggled to blend it earlier on. He would do one or the other and kind of get caught in the transition phases of the fight. Now he looks natural in there. It looks like he's been doing this forever at this point. And this is a big fight. Jeremy Kennedy's no joke, and he's one hell of a wrestler, and he's proven that he can beat a lot of guys. But if Aaron Pico is what we believe he is, and if he's what he's looked to be as of late, that should not matter here, because Pico should be able to deter that wrestling, maybe even shuck it off entirely. And while, Kennedy finds some effective striking at times, he should not be able to hang with an Aaron Pico. And I think Pico is going to stuff shots. I think he's going to start landing clean. I think Kennedy panics a bit because he can't look to the takedown that he's used to looking for if he gets clipped. And I think Pico puts him down. I will say maybe it takes a little bit because Pico is patient and until he blitzes you, but patient for a bit. I will say Aaron Pico knockout round 3.
Love it. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, and I completely agree. I think Pico is going to be on another level than Kennedy at this event. So I'm going to take, just to be a little bit different, I'm going to say Pico by knockout or TKO round 2 over Jeremy Kennedy. I think that there's just a different level that Pico has gotten to. I mean, 6 fights in a row. I believe he's going to make it 7 this weekend, and that's what it is, man. All right.
I just realized we have not been sharing Omar's pick, so apologies,
shit.
Omar. But it's interesting because on this fight, I went with knockout round 3. You went with knockout round 2. Omar's got knockout round 1 for Aaron Pico. So we've covered it there. In the last fight, we both went Juan Archuleta. Omar's coming in as the contrarian. He's going Enrique Barzola via decision. I would have loved to hear that breakdown. Unfortunately, Hurricanean's a bitch. And he agreed with you, exact same pick. Angela Lee, 3rd round submission. So
nice.
Going forward here, I'll try to remember to read Omar's picks.
I will too. I'll get him in there. Okay. Let's talk about this co-main event, Bellator 286, going down in the lightweight division. AJ McKee taking on Spike Carlyle. Let us first introduce AJ, the mercenary McKee, the 27-year-old. Man, he's still so young. Fighting out of Long Beach, California. 18-1 as a professional. 6 knockouts, 7 submissions. His one loss, a decision. His most recent one, by the way, which I'll get to. So my man has never been finished. Either way, he's never been knocked out. He's never been tapped. So he's coming off of that loss at the rematch against Patricio Pitbull at Bellator 277 back in April of this year. Now he's getting back into the Bellator cage. Looking to get right back on track in the win column. And he's going up against the very tough, very formidable Spike, the Crucifixion Carlyle, the 29-year-old from San Diego, California. He is 14-3 as a professional, 6 knockouts, 7 submissions, riding a 5-fight win streak coming into this event, Bellator 286. Tough one. Mark, I'm guessing AJ is still going to be a favorite, possible big favorite?
Pretty big. He is minus 460. Spike is plus 340.
Wow.
So, AJ McKee makes his move up to 155. He is still talking as if he'd love to fight Patricio again, so we'll see how permanent this move is. But with this now Grand Prix coming up that we've just learned about, wouldn't shock me if they want AJ McKee to be in that, and if he wants to be in that for a chance at the $1 million prize that Bellator does at the end of their Grand Prix. So maybe he is going to be a lightweight for a bit here, so we might have to get comfortable with this. And he's going to start against Spike Carlyle. He is still going to have a 2-inch height and a 2-inch reach advantage on Spike, despite moving up in weight. But Spike is jacked. He is strong. He's an athletic dude. So the size is intriguing in that way. And while, yes, maybe Spike hasn't shown to be at an AJ McKee-esque level, when you're fighting down, and the guy you're fighting down to is an explosive athlete who is dangerous everywhere, you got to mind your P's and Q's, because that's the exact kind of guy that can spring an upset. So AJ's got to fight smart in this fight, and Spike is tough as hell as well. He doesn't go away easy. But I do think AJ is clearly the better fighter here. I think he comes in. I think he's going to up the output compared to his last fight. I'm sure he's not thrilled with that result. He thought he beat Pitbull that night. I'm sure more output would have helped the judges agree with that. So I think he comes in with more output here for sure. I think he kind of picks Spike apart from range, and Spike's going to have to try to turn it into something maybe a bit less clean. But AJ is very good at working his game, at keeping his range when he wants to, closing it when he wants to. And I think he's going to pick Spike apart and either maybe clip him at some point and end up subbing him, like club and sub type thing, or just kind of drub him the whole way for a 30-27. I could see it going either of those ways, but I am going to go with a clear 30-27 win for AJ McKee.
Important to note, I mentioned AJ McKee has never been finished. He's never been knocked out or submitted. Neither has Spike Carlyle. Never been knocked out, never been tapped. So a tall order indeed for AJ McKee going up in weight. That being said, a guy who's 18-1, yeah, I have to still roll with him, even if he's going up in weight, against a very formidable opponent like the very, very jacked Spike Carlyle. Yeah, I'm going to say he's just too skilled, and he's too good everywhere. So I agree with you, Mark, completely. I think we're going to see AJ McKee win by UD. I'm not super confident in 30-27 as you are. I'll say 29-28 to give us a little wrinkle here.
I debated.
I'll say Spike looks good.
Yeah.
Okay. Omar. Yes. Omar says McKee via decision. McKee via decision. Okay. Same page. We are unanimous. All right. Let's talk about this main event. Bellator 286. Pitbull versus Borics. So Patricio, Pitbull. How do you say his last name? Freire, I
think.
Freire? Something like that. Nobody ever says his last name.
Freire. Yeah, Freire. Yeah.
This is why nobody says his last name.
Yeah.
Patricio Pitbull, the 35-year-old from Rio Grande, from Brazil. 33-5 as a pro, 11 knockouts, 12 submissions, coming off of a win against AJ McKee, getting his belt back, and he's taking on Adam the Kid Borics from Hungary, the 29-year-old. He is also, like AJ McKee, 18-1 as a professional. His only loss, a submission loss that came at the hands of Darian Caldwell back in 2020. He's on a 4-fight win streak since then. Of his 18 wins, 4 knockouts, 6 submissions, 1 decision, and 1 other. I wonder what that's from. I'd have to look through his record a little bit. Either way.
DQ, maybe?
Tremendous Borics. Just tremendous, man. He's so good. Yeah, maybe a DQ.
I need to know now.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
continue.
a DQ. It's a DQ for 2014. Yep.
There you go.
All right, man. Give us your thoughts and ultimately your pick on this very exciting featherweight showdown between Pitbull and Adam the Kid.
Okay. Pitbull favored close -145. Borics +120. I am so into this fight. Like, I'm really excited to see Adam Borics get this chance and see what he can do. And I feel like no one cares about this fight. I feel like no one is talking about it. I haven't heard any buzz, I haven't seen anything on Twitter really. Like, this is the quietest fight ever. And I just gave you the odds. It's freaking +120 for Adam Borics. How often do you see someone +120 against Pitbull? Other than McKee, obviously. But, like, I feel like because he fought McKee, now everyone's just like, oh, whatever, the next guy. But, like, this is a good fucking fight. So, I don't know. I can't wait for this thing. It's an interesting one. Adam Borics is a real threat to take out Patricio Pitbull. He's coming in with a 5-inch reach advantage and a 5-inch height advantage. And this dude can fight. As you said, he has 1 loss in a 19-fight career. He is a nasty kickboxer. He can grapple. He just put a beating on Mads Burnell. He took shots, too, in the fight. Don't get me wrong. But he looked great, and he clearly won it. He has every strike in the book. He's got a gas tank. He's tough. He's got a chin. I mean, the man is not to be overlooked in any way as a challenger here. And Patricio, of course, we know how good this dude is. He somehow always turns his size into a non-factor. He makes guys come to him. He can KO you cold. He's a great counter fighter. He can sub you. He can snatch a guillotine out of nowhere. Of course, I'm very impressed by the fact that he was able to take his belt back from AJ McKee, which I never saw coming. However, I don't know if I'm seeing enough out of Pitbull in these last couple fights to feel the same way about him. Like, when I picked AJ McKee to beat him, I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm picking AJ McKee. You know, the first time I'm talking about. And then it happened. But it happened pretty easily. And then I wasn't terribly impressed by Pitbull last fight either. I was more disappointed in the way McKee fought. Mm-hmm. And now I'm almost feeling like, man, I kind of feel like Borics could beat him too. Like, similar, I mean, not similar. McKee freaking blitzed him in seconds the first time. But for some of the same reasons I thought McKee could the first time. I don't know if I'm seeing enough activity out of Pitbull. And maybe he's kind of tricking me because he very intentionally fought that way against McKee because he felt like that's what he needed to do to get a win. And maybe he's going to be more active in this fight. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He could certainly make me sound dumb if he fights differently. But I kind of think Adam Borics surprises everyone here. If Pitbull plays his waiting game and makes Borics come at him, Borics is going to happily oblige and walk forward like the buzzsaw that he is, throwing every friggin' strike in the book. And obviously the trick is to not get caught by a Pitbull counter, which a lot of guys have had problems with over the years. And it's not like Adam Borics is unhittable because he's not. So maybe that ends up being his undoing. And I'm thinking about now, actually, how often Mads was able to land to his body. So that's a concern as well. But I think I'm going to go Borics here and say he can do it. I think that he can even look to grapple if it presents himself and potentially be okay there. I just think he's an interesting challenge for Pitbull. He's so much bigger. And I don't see anyone else picking Borics. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to say maybe Pitbull starts too slow, drops the early rounds to Borics early based on activity, and kind of is down 2-0 and just is not able to come all the way back enough to take the cards. So I will say Borics gets 3 of these rounds and wins a UD to become the new champ.
Well, he has won. He's riding a 4-fight win streak, but all 4 of those fights have come by way of decision victory for Borics.
Yep.
I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like the age differential between these two guys. Borics is really in his prime, and he's a bigger man, a much bigger man. I mean, Pitbull's 5'6". So at 145 pounds, Borics is a giant. I'm with you, man. I'm feeling like I'm liking Borics. Yeah, I mean,
I didn't expect that.
As amazing as Pitbull is, and he's amazing, man. He's incredibly talented. I just have a feeling. About this. I'm gonna go Borics. I want to say he's gonna get him out of there because I feel like maybe I'm being influenced by Pitbull's last loss against McKee, how it just kind of happened like a flash of lightning.
Yeah.
I like the attributes of Borics. He's so much taller. What's the reach? You said the reach before?
5 inches.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, fuck it. I'll go with it. Let's say TKO round 2 for Borics.
Wow.
Okay. Omar says Pitbull by knockout round 2.
It's another one where I would have loved to hear his analysis as to why.
Oh man. All right. Okay.
But yeah, I am very intrigued to watch that fight.
Yeah, man. Bellator 286, October 1st. It's going down, California. Let's go.
Yeah, so you're actually
all right. One more, buddy.
We're about to get into the UFC here, but you're kind of getting a combo that night. UFC main card is at 7 Eastern. Probably ends around 10:30, maybe even 10. And the Bellator main card starts at 10 Eastern. So you're kind of getting it straight through the whole night. So it's nice.
Nice. Okay. UFC Fight Night Dern versus Xiong going down in Las Vegas at the good old UFC Apex. Headline by Mackenzie Dern and Xiaonan Yan, or Yan Xiaonan, whichever way you want to say it. I guess Yan is her last name since that's on the headline.
Yeah.
Before we talk about, I think we're going to talk about 5 of these fights, Mark. Any other ones that you want to put a spotlight on for our listeners?
Yeah, I'll do one for Omar. Got to talk about my boy Guido Canetti. I love Guido Canetti. we know that's Omar's boy. He's on the card. He's fighting Randy Costa, who I think is another one of Omar's boys. So that could be a scrap. I actually could see that end in round 1 potentially. So that should be a good fight. Another one I will mention is Jessica Penne and Tabitha Ricci. I think that's an interesting fight. Penne stepping in on short notice. It seems like the world is on Ricci. I kind of like Penne in that fight if you're looking for a dog to bet. And the last one I'll mention, there's some others that I could bring up here as well, but I will mention Sadiq Yusuff because we're not going to break down his fight as much as Sadiq Yusuff is a stud. He was supposed to be fighting Giga Chikadze a couple weeks ago. Chikadze got hurt. They bumped Sadiq back to this card, and he's fighting a debuting fighter in Don Shainis, and Sadiq Yusuff is minus 1,000 in that fight. Mm-hmm. So I don't really understand. I even think that might have been 3 weeks ago that we found that about Giga. So I don't understand how there was not a single UFC featherweight who wanted to raise their hand and be like, sure, I'll take a shot at Sadiq Yusuff. I don't really get how we had to go with a debuting fighter for him. Like, no one wants to fight Sadiq Yusuff. So that's a little disappointing, but he's obviously a guy to watch. You would hope he'll put on an impressive performance there. And, yeah, now we're going to get into 5 fights for you. Kind of picked. This card is very randomly ordered, so our 5 that we're going to break down that we feel like are the more relevant 5 are kind of coming from all over the card. But that's how we're going to do it because it's our show.
That's right, baby. Let us begin in the heavyweight division. Ilir the Sledgehammer Latifi taking on the boa constrictor Aleksei Oleinik. What a fight. What a fun fight, man, at heavyweight. These two geezers over here.
Is Ilir that old? How old is Ilir?
He's 39.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize
Ilir Latifi. Yeah, man. Not a ton of fights for a 39-year-old heavyweight.
Yeah.
Not a ton of fights.
He was like 36, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, Ilir Latifi, the Sledgehammer, the 39-year-old Swede, fighting out of Malmo. 15 victories, 8 defeats, 1 no contest as a professional, 6 knockouts and 4 subs on his record. After a 3-fight losing streak, he got back in the win column against Tanner Boser by split decision in June of last year, and now he's going to face off against the boa constrictor, none other than himself, the ageless wonder, the fountain of youth, Aleksei Oleinik, fighting out of Moscow, Russia. He is 45 years old. He has, every time we talk about this guy, every time, my jaw drops talking about this man's record.
Yeah.
Coming into this weekend, my man has 60 victories. Let me say that again in case you think I misspoke. I didn't. 60, not 16, 60 victories, 16 defeats, and 1 draw. Of his 60 victories, he has 8 knockouts and 47 submission victories. 47.
Insane.
He himself snapped a 3-fight losing streak against Derek Lewis, Chris Dawkins, and Spivak by subbing Jared Vandera back in April of this year. So this is a interesting fight. I'm guessing, this is a new little theme for this episode, me guessing how close or how wide the odds might be. I'm guessing the odds are pretty close on this one because both these guys are older and the odds makers might be like, I don't know.
Fairly close. Ilir Latifi is the favorite. He is minus 175. Oleinik is plus 145 as the dog.
Oh, wow.
So we've talked about this one before. They were booked, I want to say, a couple months ago. We broke them down and then got delayed, and here we are. Now we're getting it. Obviously, Latifi, as we know, is a career light heavyweight, but he has looked solid through 2 fights at heavyweight thus far. Even in his loss, he gave Derek Lewis a legitimate close fight. He is much smaller than Oleinik, as he tends to be against most of these heavyweights. Oleinik is going to have a 4-inch height and a 6-inch reach advantage. But what helps Ilir in this particular matchup is that he's not going to really have to work too hard to get inside of that reach because Oleinik wants to do the same exact thing. He wants to get even closer than Ilir does. He wants to go through punching range and into hugging range because he wants to be glued to you if possible. So, Ilir is going to have to walk a careful line here and make sure that Oleinik can't grab a hold of him. But he is going to have plenty of opportunities in his range to land heavy shots. And I don't love the way Aleksei Oleinik's chin has been looking as of late. And plus, Ilir can wrestle. He's got that low center of gravity that makes him hard to take down. I know Oleinik's tricky, but I see him maybe struggling to get this thing to the mat. And I see him maybe eating a couple shots that he maybe wouldn't have eaten, a few fights back. I feel like he's suddenly getting hit a lot cleaner. So I'm leaning Ilir. As much as Aleksei is always live and can friggin' tap anybody, I think guys have been finding his chin too easy, and I think Ilir can do the same. I know Ilir has not had a finish in a while, but I'm going to say he gets it here. Ilir Latifi, round 2 TKO.
Love it. Another important thing I should have mentioned about Latifi, as it is germane to this matchup, is that Ilir Latifi has never been submitted. So this is he doesn't have a tremendous record. Again, he's only at 15-8. So it's not like he has, especially for a guy who's 39 years old, it's not like he has, 30, 40 fights on his record.
He also has no neck, which is helpful.
Yes, exactly. For a guy who's a 205er / heavyweight at 5'10", he is built like a fire hydrant, man. He really is.
Yeah.
That being said, just to make it interesting, why not? I'm going to say it's going to be a first. I'm going to say the law of averages is going to catch up with Mr. Latifi, and I'm going to say that the boa constrictor does somehow get him out of there with some kind of choke. I'm going to say, I'll say second round.
Nice.
Why not?
What did Omar say?
Omar
said Oleinik first round sub.
Wow.
I'm alone on Latifi.
Wow.
You said
Oleinik
sub too,
has
right?
No.
You didn't say Oleinik sub?
Oh yeah, sub. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Omar said too.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're on the same page, he and I.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on.
Let's.
To the middleweight division, UFC Fight Night, Dern versus Xiong. In the middleweight division, Krzysztof Jotko taking on Brendan Allen. Jotko, the 33-year-old from Poland, 24 victories, 5 defeats. of those 24 victories, six by knockout, 1 submission, 17 decisions. He's coming off of back-to-back victories against Misha Serkinov and Gerald Mearshart. And he's taking on Brendan All-In Allen, the 26-year-old fighting out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's 19-5 as a professional, 5 knockout victories, 10 tap-out victories. He is also coming off back-to-back wins coming into this Saturday night against Sam Alvey and Jacob Malkoon. Mark, what are your thoughts and your pick for this fight?
So tight one here. Jocko is the favorite. He's minus 125. Brendan Allen is even money, plus 100. This is it, Brendan Allen. This is the one. If you are who I think you are and who I've talked you up to be, you got to beat Krzysztof Jotko. Jocko's a really well-rounded dude, really well-rounded. But I think Brendan Allen is big, strong, and versed enough in the grappling department that he will prevent Jotko from working much of an advantage there. Jotko, of course, is also a capable striker, but I think Allen is more dangerous, has more power. I think he can have the bigger moments. And as good as Jotko is, I just see him getting hurt more than Allen in this fight. And I think Allen can ride the damage moments to a victory here. So I'm going to say 29-28 for my man Brendan Allen, UD.
Ooh. Love it. So I think I agree. I think Brendan Allen is certainly rising. He had a hiccup against the very talented Chris Curtis. Before that, his last loss was against the very talented Sean Strickland. So he's only lost against guys who are really getting towards the top middleweight. I mean, Chris Curtis isn't, I wouldn't say he's at the top middleweight, but I think Chris Curtis, I think very highly of his skill set at 185 pounds. I think Brendan Allen's going to get there too, man. I really do. He's a talented guy. I do also like his size at 185. I don't think he's going to win by decision, though. I think he's going to get Jotko out of there. I think he's going to hurt him.
Wow.
And I think we're going to see a TKO victory for Brendan Allen in the 3rd round.
Wow.
And Mr. Omar Artola says Jotko via decision.
I thought you were going Jotko. I feel like historically you are a fan of Jotko.
I like Jotko.
Maybe you're also a fan of Allen, which I forgot.
I mean, Allen has won me over in his recent fights because he's a talented young guy. He's only 26.
I don't mean fan like root for. I mean like you like their talent.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We're not picking based on who we like here, although occasionally I have done that.
That's very dumb when I do. Always a bad decision. Okay, in the bantamweight division, Johnny Barcelos taking on Trevin Jones. Here we go. Barcelos, the 35-year-old, fighting out of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. 16-3 as a pro, 8 knockouts, 2 subs. Never been knocked out himself. He is coming off back-to-back losses against Timur Valiev and Victor Henry, most recently against Henry back in January of this year. Trevin Jones, 5-star, fighting out of Guam, 32 years old, 13-8 as a pro, 1 no contest. Of his 13 wins, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. He is also coming off back-to-back losses. I have to say, this card, they're doing a good job with this card of matching up people who are coming off of very similar fights.
Yep, I agree.
Trevin Jones, 3 knockout victories, 4 submission victories. This is a very evenly matched up fight right here at the right time in these guys' careers. I like it. I like it a lot. Similar age, similar size, similar records, similar methods of victory for both men. What are your thoughts, Mark? And give us your pick.
So I agree with everything that you just said. One of these guys, I think, when he is on, has shown to have much more talent than the other. And that is Barcelos, to me. I think that the bettors are seeing the same thing because he's a bigger favorite than I expected him to be. He is minus 250. Trevin Jones is plus 200. Raoni Barcelos is very hard to pick because, as I kind of just alluded to, he has so much skill that he has shown. But sometimes he just kind of comes out flat, and you're like, wow, what? I didn't see this coming. Trevin Jones is a bit hard to pick because while he's very well-rounded, I feel like he doesn't inspire a ton of confidence because there's a lot of times in his fights where in a certain area he's kind of getting worked. Like even you look at his big win over Timur Valiev, which is kind of what legitimized him to the point that he's at. He was getting smoked on the feet earlier in that fight, and he happened to land a big shot as it went on. So they're both guys who like have the talent, but you don't feel super safe picking them. But Raoni Barcelos is a guy who beat Said Nurmagomedov. Is that actually? I'm trying to remember. Does Said only have one loss in his whole career, and it's that? Now I'm curious. Please hold. No, he has a second loss. He lost earlier in his career, pre-UFC days. All right, but still, point remains. He beat Said, who is obviously a fantastic young fighter. So I can't ignore the talent level that Raoni Barcelos has shown. I don't know if maybe he's a guy who came into the UFC too late and then he's already getting a bit older and he's kind of coming down from his peak. That could be the reality here. But I just think he has a lot more tools in the bag. I think he can work some low kicks. I think he can stay active, avoid any big shots from Trevin, and kind of just outpoint him, be the better fighter. And even if it hits the mat, I think his grappling counters Jones' wrestling. I will say 29-28 UD for Raoni Barcelos.
Oh, I love a good Mark Prio breakdown. You make a compelling point because I was in here getting ready to pick Trevin Jones. And you're right. I was very much influenced by that Valiev victory back in 2020, which still sticks in memory because it was so impressive. But that was also overturned because Trevin Jones tested positive for marijuana. Bum, 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 boom.
Dude, yeah, wow, I forgot that was overturned.
That was stupid.
Wow.
That's a stupid reason to overturn a fucking victory like that, man.
More stupidest thing in the world. I hate it.
And then he also TKO'd Mario Bautista right after that. I'm going to go with Trevin Jones by TKO once again, getting back in the win column in impressive fashion. And let's see what Omar says. Omar says, Raoni Barcelos by decision. He says, but meh either way. Okay.
Like he thinks the fight's going to be meh, I think he means.
Okay. I think it's going to be a good fight.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. Let's go on. This is the co-main?
Yeah, Randy Brown, yeah.
Okay. Co-main event, welterweight division. Randy Rude Boy Brown taking on Francisco Trinaldo. Randy Brown, Rude Boy, fighting out of Jamaica, 32 years old, 15-4 as a pro, 6 knockouts, 5 subs, 4 decisions, carrying a 3-fight win streak coming into this Saturday night where he will face off against the very tough but very old Francisco Trinaldo. How do you say this man's nickname? Masaranduba. Yeah, of course. The 44-year-old fighting out of Brasilia, Brazil. 28 victories, 8 defeats, 9 victories by knockout, 5 victories by submission. Trinaldo's no joke, man. What a skill set this guy has. He's carrying back-to-back wins into this Saturday night against Dwight Grant and Danny Roberts. Fun fight, going down at 170 pounds. Mark, what are your thoughts?
It is a fun fight. It's not my favorite booking. I thought Randy Brown had earned a big-ish name at welterweight at this point. I'm hoping if he gets another win here that we are there. Feel like he deserves it. But it's still a compelling fight. Randy Brown is a pretty big favorite. He's minus 310. Francisco Trinaldo is plus 250 as the underdog. Francisco Trinaldo is very good at drawing people into close fights. He does it to everyone who he's fought. He's fought a who's who in his career. But I think that Randy Brown is the toughest test that Trinaldo has had in at least 5 years. Randy Brown is good, and he is a big friggin' dude who's peaking right now. He is 6'3" tall. Francisco Trinaldo is 5'8". Randy Brown has a 78-inch reach. Trinaldo's is 70 flat. This is a significantly bigger human standing across from Trinaldo here. And remember, he's a former lightweight. He's only been up at welterweight for a couple fights. And he is now fighting a huge welterweight. And when that significantly bigger human looks as calm and slick and dangerous as Randy Brown has looked lately, I don't really know what Trinaldo has that can turn the fight in his favor. And Randy Brown is nasty from distance. He doesn't even need to come inside that distance. He'll work you from the 8-inch range all fight long. He'll use his kicks that make that range feel even longer because he's, what did I say? What does that math work out to? 7 inches taller than Trinaldo. So he'll hang out at range all night long if you let him. And obviously Trinaldo's not going to let him, but I'm just not sure he has the game that can prevent that from happening to him. So I think Randy Brown, as long as he fights smart, can pick Francisco Trinaldo apart. And I'm going to say he becomes the first guy to ever knock out or TKO Francisco Trinaldo. I think some accumulation adds up, and I'm going to say we get a round 3 TKO for Randy Brown.
Okay. Before I say mine, I'll say Omar's first this time. Randy Brown, baby, via second round KO.
Wow,
he wrote the word baby. We are unanimous in this one, although I won't be taking Randy Brown by knockout because I think that Trinaldo is that durable. But I will be taking Randy Brown with impressiveness for 3 rounds. I'm going to take Randy Brown by UD, and he's going to style on Trinaldo. Although Trinaldo's, man, he's good, man. But
He's
I mean,
good.
to fight, he's 44 years old. To be doing what he's doing, he's real good. Okay, let's go on to this main event of the evening of UFC Fight Night: Dern versus Jan. Mackenzie Dern taking on Yan Xiaonan in the women's strawweight division. Mackenzie Dern, of course, the 29-year-old fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona, 12-2 as a professional. Before MMA, of course, she is a decorated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. Of her 12 victories, 7 have come by way of submission. She has yet to knock out anybody or TKO anybody. She herself, of her 2 losses, she has not yet been KO'd or tapped, of course. She's coming off of a close victory against Tisha Torres by split decision back in April of this year. And this Saturday night, she's going to be looking to keep things rolling against her Chinese opponent, Xiaonan Yan, a.k.a. Fury, the 33-year-old fighting out of Shenyang, China. She is 15-3 as a pro with 1 no contest, 7 knockouts, no submission victories. So a bit of a stylistic mismatch here. For 3 losses, 1 knockout, 1 sub, 1 decision loss. Jan is coming off back-to-back losses against Carla Esparza and Marina Rodriguez. So she's looking to get back into the win column this Saturday night. A very interesting matchup. Mark, give us your thoughts and give the people your pick.
All right, so Mackenzie is the favorite here. She is minus 250. Xiaonan Yan is plus 200. So not the highest profile main event ever, but this is an interesting fight for sure. Mackenzie's going to try to make it 6 out of 7 wins, with the only hiccup being that loss to Marina Rodriguez. Xiaonan Yan will try to right the ship after losing 2 in a row, obviously with the last one being to the same Marina Rodriguez. They're an interesting matchup. They're the same exact size. As you alluded to, one of them excels in the striking. The other of them excels in the grappling. We're going to see who can work their game here. But with that being said, I do think Mackenzie Dern has been showing some visible improvements in the striking. I used to hate on Mackenzie Dern a lot earlier in her career because I was so unimpressed by her striking. And I thought she would never be able to really hit this level because of how much it would hold her back. But she has shown a lot of improvement very quickly. Not like she's some elite striker now or anything, but she has become very capable. And she has now had another 5 months of training with Jason Perillo, who's a stud. So I'm guessing we're going to see even more improvements in that regard. Now, she'll probably still lose the striking exchanges in this fight more often than not. But my point is I think she can be okay. And I think across 5 rounds, I think it's inevitable that this thing will hit the ground. And when it does, I just think Dern is too prophetic in her jiu-jitsu. And we've seen Jan on the floor before. I believe Rodriguez put her there. Esparza absolutely put her there, no problem. Now, Esparza is a better wrestler than Dern, but Dern still finds a way to kind of make things awkward and trip you or drag you there. She gets it to the mat, and I think she will at least one point, if not multiple points in this fight. And when it's down there, I think she's just so incredible that she is going to have a distinct advantage, and I don't think it will take many times of this thing hitting the ground for Mackenzie to find a sub. It may even be the first time it hits the ground. I will say Mackenzie Dern by submission, round 3.
Ooh, Mackenzie Dern by submission, round 3. I like that. I like that a lot.
Omar say.
Oh, what did Omar say?
He said first round sub for Mackenzie.
Mackenzie Dern, first round submission. This is going to be one of those times where who I'm picking and who I'm rooting for are going to be in alignment, because I love me some Mackenzie Dern. I love following her trajectory as a fighter and seeing her improve from fight to fight. She's getting more and more confident as a striker, and she has one of these cheat codes as an actual fighter where she is so good at jiu-jitsu that she can throw herself into striking with near reckless abandon, even though I would not call her striking reckless, not by any stretch, but that's not what I mean. But I think you see my point that she's not afraid at all of anyone taking her down, of the fight ever going to the mat, because she is so elite. She's beyond elite in jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to take Mackenzie Dern here by submission. I'll say round 2.
I knew you were going to do that.
Did you say round 3?
I said 3. Omar said 1.
Of course.
Someone's hitting it.
Smart. See what I did there?
Price is right, baby.
The price is for $1, Bob. Cool, man. Hey, we did it, bud. 2-man show. First time it was you and me.
Have we never done you and me?
No, you've done you and Omar.
Wow. I don't know why I thought we had before.
I don't know. Have I done it with just Omar? Have I? I don't think so.
I don't think there's been one without me. I'm the fucking glue that holds this show together, baby.
It's true. I may sort of play host, but make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, Mark is our glue. Is our glue here. Cool, man. I don't have trivia, but I have a fun fact.
Okay.
Here we go. And it.
Should I market these Dots pretzels and see if they'll pay me for advertising them on YouTube? Buy Dots pretzels. Okay, continue.
Here's the fun fact. Because it recently seems like the UFC has sort of done a 180 switch here of how they pronounce or order Chinese athletes' names.
Yep.
Song Yudong, who has been Song Yudong for years, is now Yudong Song.
Yep.
And Yan Xiaonan was always Yan Xiaonan, and now she's Xiaonan Yan.
Yep.
So, fun fact. The United States, with a population of about 350 million people, contains about 25,000 unique surnames. Nice, right?
Okay.
China, with a population in excess of 1 billion, has only 400 unique surnames.
Holy fuck. Wow.
That crazy?
I knew it was going to be a low number.
Super
I didn't
low.
even think it was going to be that low.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean,
that's why everyone's name.
With America being the melting pot that it is.
Of the world. Yeah, it's true. 25,000.
You got to think we might have the highest percentage of names to people of any country there is.
Got to be.
Right? You would have to imagine.
Us, maybe England would come kind of close.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe Australia.
Australia might be a better choice.
I mean, look at us.
I want to see a fucking list. I'm into this now.
I mean, you have a French last name. I have a Scandinavian last name.
Yeah.
And I'm really not that Scandinavian. You know, Omar's last name is Archuleta.
I'm not that French.
Right.
I'm not even a quarter French.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, in China, that's why, there's so many of the same people with last names.
Yeah.
Songs and Chens and Changs and Yans, and it's so interesting.
I like that. That was a good fun fact.
Well, my friend, we have done it again.
We have. Thanks for sticking with us, people. Apologies for the lack of Omar in your lives. He will be back next week. I'm sure he'll have hurricane stories for us.
Yeah, man.
He made it through fine. Obviously, our thoughts are with anyone who is struggling with the results of the hurricane. Luckily, our boy Omar was not affected badly. And, we'll hopefully be back as a trio next week.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Enjoy the fights this weekend. A lot of action going down. One championship, Bellator, UFC action, all going down Friday and Saturday night. Enjoy them, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.
Peace.